Fed, by virtue of how it's designed, is to be incredibly independent of the executive branch. That's why it's kind of a big deal, even when Fed chair meets with the president, because there's supposed to be this firewall there.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by economics reporter Zach Halaschak. And Zach, it's been another week of contention between the White House and the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
A possible firing afoot with some legal challenges.
Possible for sure, yeah.
Tell us what the latest is.
Yeah, so we kind of started the week off with a bang here on Monday night. Trump tweeted out, or rather posted on Truth Social, his social media site, that he had fired Fed Governor Lisa Cook. She'd been obviously under fire for a couple weeks before that from Bill Pulte, who's Trump's kind of top housing guy, and he accused her of committing mortgage fraud by putting listing two houses as her primary address, something that you could kind of get lower interest rates for. And so he was very publicly gunning for the DOJ to criminally criminally referred her. And then Trump, kind of out of the blue on Monday night, just announced that he had fired her. Notably, the Supreme Court has said that, other certain officials in the admin you could just fire without reason, but Fed officials you have to fire for cause. And so this mortgage fraud, the allegations of mortgage fraud, were the for cause Trump sort of needed to try to do that. Now, it wasn't done and over after that. She actually hasn't really, we don't really know, the Fed isn't formally saying whether or not she's still on the job, publicly, but she's now going to sue and try to stop that with an injunction, and then hopefully for her get her seat back through the court system, the legal system. But we still don't know. The lawsuit still hasn't been filed. It's Wednesday now, so we don't really know what her arguments are going to be or sort of what that looks like. But some legal experts I've spoken to have said that this does have a chance of, Trump does have a chance of succeeding here. This isn't a clear-cut case either way.
Right. I mean, there is some question about whether this is satisfied for cause.
Yep.
And of course, Trump has been moving against the various independent agencies, and the courts have given him a certain amount of leeway in terms of firing people who previous presidents might not have attempted to fire.
Yeah, but the thing about this is the Fed is a little different than other agencies. That's
Sure.
because the Fed, by virtue of how it's designed, is to be incredibly independent of the executive branch. That's why it's kind of a big deal, even when Fed chair meets with the president, because there's supposed to be this firewall there. And I think Trump's critics are saying, look, this wasn't just a random, she committed mortgage fraud and deserves to go, and that's why he's pursuing it. It's because he wants his own person on the board to lower interest rates, push for lower interest rates, and this is sort of a pretext to get rid of her so he can replace her. So you're hearing a lot of accusations of politicization of the Fed. Elizabeth Warren, who's the top Democrat in the Senate Banking Committee, the ranking member, she's said it smacks of politics, that sort of thing. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out in the coming weeks and just what that kind of legal battle looks like. I'm not sure how long it'll take, but it's certainly big news for the Fed.
And they have been looking at candidates to fill Fed positions, both potentially this one and vacancies that were going to occur anyway.
Yep.
And you've written about this. Some of the people that they're looking at are on record wanting to cut interest rates.
Yeah, I would say probably the majority of the ones that I was looking at are, have said that they want to see rates be lower. Some of the more prominent ones like Kevin Warsh, Kevin Hassett, or the Kevins as you call them.
The Kevins.
Both of them have said that they want to see interest rates go lower. You have some of the people on his short list are also at the Fed already. So like Chris Waller, he's also pushed for lower interest rates and was one of two alongside Michelle Bowman, who voted for lower interest rates at the last FOMC or Fed board meeting. And so both of those are on Trump's short list reportedly. But yeah, it's a pretty wide net. I think he had 3 or 4 people on his supposed short list a few weeks ago. It's widened a bit. So I think they're taking kind of a wider look at a variety of different candidates who could fill that role of Fed chair, because as we know, he's really fed up with, no pun intended, fed up with
yes.
Jerome Powell and his
Very
role
good.
as Fed chair. Yeah.
Yeah. So the big non-Fed news of this week really concerned Intel, and the administration is getting a lot of blowback. Some people are even saying Trump is being a socialist.
Yeah, I mean, that's you have the Thomas Masseys of the world and the Rand Pauls and the kind of free market principalists, libertarians who are, they're not happy about this at all. It was announced that Trump and Intel, or the U.S. and Intel, had agreed to have the U.S. government take a 10% stake in the company. Intel's obviously had some issues in the past several years, especially as the global economy kind of eases into this AI revolution, and chips are like the hot commodity these days. And you've seen companies like NVIDIA just like blow Intel out of the water. So I think this is kind of a way, or the Trump admin is arguing this is a way to sort of shore up U.S. domestic chip manufacturing and like safeguard that technology for any sort of rivalry with China and that sort of thing. But you have others, and especially people on the right, who are saying, this is not, government should not be involved in free markets like this. This is a step into China-style, state capitalism, and it's. I think it'll be interesting. I think once lawmakers get back, because they're on recess right now, the whole month of August. Once they get back, and will actually be able to face questions from reporters like myself about what they actually think about this, because I think a lot of the ones who are more free market oriented just have been quiet on the issue, and I've reached out to a lot of their offices and none of them are getting back to me. It's like radio silence, because I think it's going to be an interesting battle legislatively with Trump over this. And Howard Lutnick, Trump's Commerce Secretary, has even hinted, and also Kevin Hassett has hinted that there might be more companies the U.S. will try to take stakes in. I think
building some kind of sovereign wealth fund, potentially.
Yes, it's similar to like Norway has one, Saudi Arabia has one, and Trump's long talked about building a sovereign wealth fund, so it shouldn't come as so much of a surprise. And I think that's a kind of a common thing we've seen is some of Trump's campaign trail ideas that he's talked about have become reality, and people are kind of shocked that it happened. Like, remember with tariffs, like everyone was freaking out. He's been saying the same thing for months, and that's what he ran on. But I think this is just another example of that.
Thank you, Zach. You can read Zach and the rest of our policy team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.